Morning, Mr. Morning, Mr. Hager. Okay, we are on the Gemara of Mem Gimel on the base 43, 43b. On 43b, we started the piece Arava Shiva Ketzat, 43b1. Arava Shiva Ketzat. We said that mitzvah Arava, the time of the Beit HaMikdash, was a 7-day mitzvah, that they would take the Arava by the Beit HaMikdash. Like we said, the Arava is the Hoshanot that we call today. They would just hold them, they would take them, they would, let's say, encircle, some say they would encircle the Mizbeach, they'd walk around the Mizbeach. Say it again? No. So let's see, the Arava is Hoshanot, willows. With willows, they would take these willows and they would walk around. They would go around the Mizbeach, they would go around the altar, carry them, right. And they would, that's how some explain, and they would place them on the side of the altar. Place on the side of the altar. And obviously, it should be a merit for the Jewish community. What I would understand, it should be a merit that they should be blessed with a good year with rain for the year. So, Arava Shiva Ketzat, the Mishnah stated, you have it, Mr. Cohen? On 43b1 Ketzat. The Mishnah stated that in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, there was a 7-day mitzvah. And there was a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. It was a halacha that was given. There is an opinion that says that the Torah alludes to it by saying arvei nachal, plural, that there's two types of aravot, two types of willows, one with the lulav and one with the independent of the lulav. But we'll go with the main opinion, and this is morning, Ralph, that it was something that was halacha Moshe Sinai. It's given from Hashem. Hashem spoke to Moshe at Sinai. It's not written directly in the Torah. So the Gemara had the question: Arava b'shvi'i my time b'dochi Shabbat. Why did we say that the Arava was able to go ahead and take the Arava on Shabbat? And Rashi explains the Gemara's question is, why didn't we make a gzeirah? Why didn't the rabbis, we said if the 7th day of Sukkot comes out on Shabbat, right? If the 7th day of Sukkot comes on Shabbat, meaning Hoshana Rabbah. If Hoshana Rabbah, we call Hoshana Rabbah, comes out on Shabbat, what do we say? That's the time that we would take the Hoshana on Shabbat. That's what in the time of the Beit HaMikdash. But why weren't the rabbis concerned that maybe you come to carry the Arava in the street on Shabbat? Carrying on Shabbat is one of the 39 malachot on Shabbat. In a place where you can't make an eruv, in a place where there's no eruv, to carry is one of the 39 malachot on Shabbat. It's a very serious violation of Hilchot Shabbat, that if people go ahead and carry something in their pocket on Shabbat, and by mistake they carry on Shabbat. So, and the rabbis, we said, are concerned to protect the Jewish community from doing sin. So they make certain gezerot, they make certain fences. So why didn't they make the fence by the Arava? And we explained because they made, and we said that by Sukkah, by Lulav, they said if Yom Tov comes out on Shabbat, the only time they allowed you to take Lulav was day 1 on Shabbat. If the first day of the holiday comes out on Shabbat, you could take the lulav on Shabbat. If day 2 to 7 comes out on Shabbat, they didn't let you take the lulav because they were concerned for carrying. And the only reason why they did not make the fence by the first day of the holiday when it comes to lulav is because the first day of the holiday is a mitzvah both for the people at the Beit HaMikdash to take lulav and the people outside the Beit HaMikdash to take lulav. So where the Torah was very strict, we said yesterday, the Torah says that the mitzvah applies both to the people by the Beit HaMikdash. Both people outside the Beit HaMikdash, the rabbis held back to create the fence, which would have held the people back from doing the mitzvah. But the mitzvah of Hoshana, taking the Aravo, taking these willows by the Beit HaMikdash, was a specific mitzvah only in the Beit HaMikdash. It was a mitzvah that you had to do by the Beit HaMikdash, putting it on the side of the altar. it wasn't a mitzvah to do outside the mikdash. So if the Torah wasn't so strict about the mitzvah, because the Torah did not obligate every person to take independently these willows, so why shouldn't the rabbis make the fence? That's the Gemara's question. Why didn't the rabbis make the fence? But Arava. We understand why they didn't make the fence by the lulav when it came on a Shabbat, the first day. We understand that because that mitzvah applies both in the mikdash and outside the mikdash by the lulav. The rabbis did not want to say don't take it on that Shabbat. But why? But since the harava, as Mr. Cohen said, applies only in the mikdash, the special mitzvah to take these haravot, these shanot. So why? And it doesn't apply outside the mikdash. So why didn't the rabbis create a fence, even if it came out on Shabbat? Even if the seventh day came out on Shabbat, they should say, don't take it. Don't take it today. You'll miss out the mitzvah. Better miss out the mitzvah than violating the Shabbat. The rabbis have that power, just like on Rosh Hashanah. The rabbis say, don't blow the shofar Rosh Hashanah. The Shana comes on a Shabbat. Why can't you blow the shofar? You might come to carry it. So that's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, because there's something else here that's driving the rabbis not to make the fence when the seventh day comes on a Shabbat. What? They wanted to publicize that this mitzvah of Arava, of taking these willows independently of the lulav by the mizbeach of the Beit HaMikdash, is a biblical mitzvah. It's a halacha l'Moshe Misinai. It's a Torah on the level of the Torah, and since it's not openly written in the Torah, so the rabbis gave it one. They said that if it comes out on Shabbat, if the seventh day comes out on Shabbat, the rabbi said, you know what, we're going to allow the mitzvah to take place even on Shabbat. So people will see that will be a statement to the community. How are we taking the Arava on Shabbat, when the seventh day of Sukkot comes on Shabbat? Why don't we make a fence? Because it's a biblical mitzvah. The rabbis didn't make the fence to tell you to hold back from performing the mitzvah. So therefore, that idea of making people know that it's a mitzvah min Torah, and I presume by making it known that it's mitzvah min Torah will also ensure that people will follow it properly. So therefore, one assignment. Therefore, the rabbis felt we have to leave the right to do the mitzvah on Shabbat if the seventh day comes out on Shabbat. Now, obviously, you can ask the question, if you want to make a note, why do you have to make that statement if the seventh day comes out on Shabbat? Why can't you make that statement if the first day comes out on Shabbat? Take that Rav on the first day of the holiday if it comes out on Shabbat. What we'll see. So the Gemara is going to address the issue. Why pick the seventh day to be the day that's the day we're going to show our statement, right? Everyone said, well, stay tuned. We'll see that point. Now comes the Gemara. Okay, I mean, you're telling me that there's this important idea to publicize something as Min Torah. The people should recognize the seriousness of the matter. You know, lulav, what do we say? We say the first day that we take the lulav by the mikdash, if the first day comes out on Shabbat, we take the lulav on Shabbat. If the first day of the holiday is Sukkot, what about if the second day comes out on Shabbat? The third day comes out on Shabbat. The rabbis say if the second to seventh day of the holiday Sukkot comes out on Shabbat, the rabbis say you do not take the lulav by the mikdash. They will tell you don't take the lulav by the mikdash if the second to seventh day comes out on Shabbat. Now you know what people will think. You know what they'll think it's not a mitzvah min Torah, because the fact that the first day, everybody knows the first day is min Torah. The Torah says lakachtem lachem b'yom harishon. The Torah says everybody takes lulav the first day. But do people know that the second to seventh day there's a mitzvah to take the lulav by the mikdash for 7 days? The Torah says, "Usmachtem lifnei Hashem Elokeichem shivat yomim." You should rejoice in front of Hashem for 7 days. Now, there's many ways to rejoice. Maybe you could rejoice. Maybe it means by eating the korban. You rejoice by having some good meat, like on Purim, it's a good festive meal. But we don't necessarily know from the language of the pasuk. It's not clear from the language of pasuk that smachtem, that you rejoice by taking the lulav. That's what we say it means, that you rejoice by taking the lulav. And therefore, it's interesting that the lulav brings you great simcha. There's an idea in the Sefer Chinuch that all the different colors, you take the lulav, the hadassim, the aravot, all of those multicolor bring a simcha when you take it. But you would not necessarily know it means taking it by the actual lulav. Maybe simcha, there's many ways to skin a cat, as they say. Many ways to be happy. You can be happy by seeing Mark Ashley on the screen. You can be happy. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Yes. You can be happy by having the meat from the karban shlamim, for the karban. You can be happy by taking the lulav. I'm so excited. I take the lulav. It's so beautiful, all the different colors. The etrog was gorgeous, right? So I have many ways to be happy. But I would not necessarily know that it means to be happy by taking the lulav. So why don't the rabbis say that I could take the lulav by the mikdash if it comes down on Shabbat, even between day 2 and day 7? Mark, we just introduced an idea that there's a very important concept to publicize that something is min Torah, that the community should know a mitzvah, a certain mitzvah, if it's not clear in the pasuk, if let's say it's alluded to, it's not clear, or it's a halacha Moshe Sinai that Hashem told Moshe. When Moshe was on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, Hashem told him a lot of halacha, a lot of law. And to publicize it, that this law is a biblical law, so the Gemara stated that the rabbis did not want to hold you back from taking the arava, those hoshanot, those willows, in the mikdash. They did not want to hold you back if the 7th day came on a Shabbat, but they wanted to make a statement that the idea of taking the arava by itself, the hoshanat by itself, is a biblical mitzvah. And the way the people will know that is by the fact that we allow you to take it even on Shabbat, if the 7th day comes down on Shabbat. So the Gemara asks the question, so why don't we make that statement by the lulav also? There's a mitzvah on a Torah level to take the lulav for 7 days by the mikdash. If you're by the mikdash area, you have a mitzvah min Torah, take the lulav. And the rabbi said you cannot take that lulav by the mikdash if the holiday, if Shabbat came out on the 2nd day of the holiday, or the 3rd day, or the 4th. You will not take the lulav between day 2 and day 7 of the holiday comes down on Shabbat. Why shouldn't you? We should need to publicize to the people that there's a mitzvah on a Torah level to take the lulav by the mikdash. That's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara answers, you know what? We have a problem. We are afraid that people are going to come to carry the lulav. Meaning you want to publicize that something is min Torah, but we have a problem. What's the problem? Then it's going to come at possible expense that people might come to what? Carry. So the Gemara says if you have one side of the coin, the possible concern people come to carry lulav, but on the other side of the coin, you want to educate the people that the mitzvah is min Torah. The winner is the concern of maybe carrying is more of a concern than people knowing that the mitzvah is min Torah. So the Gemara
why doesn't it apply to the Arava?
Oh, so that's the next question of the Gemara. So the Gemara says, that's the next Gemara's question. So let's read it inside. The lulav should also be able to take between days 2nd and 7. The Gemara says the reason why we don't is a Geshem Gzeira de Rabbah. That's Rabbah said that there's a concern you might come to carry. So the Gemara says, Mark's question, so Arava also, why do we allow you to take the Arava, those Hoshanot, in the Mikdash on day 7, if day 7 is on Shabbat? Game 7, right? Game 7 is on Shabbat, it's the real game. Everything else is it's fake game, right? If we really count, the day 7 comes down on Shabbat, we say you cannot take it, you're allowed to take it. Why don't we be afraid? Why aren't we concerned? Why? Because we want to publicize that what? That it's a biblical mitzvah to take that rava in the mikdash. But why? But you just told me it's more important to be concerned about the carrying. So why, if it's seventh day comes down to Shabbat, you should be worried about the carrying. So the Gemara, the Ihachi Eruvanami Nigza. So the Gemara says there's a difference between the arava and the lulav. What's the difference? Arava shluchei bedin ma'asile. Lulav lakol mosam. Arava, who are the people that have the mitzvah to do the arava? The Kohanim are the ones that are going to take their rava and walk around the Mizbeach, and the agents of the court are the ones that are going to go ahead and be involved in delivering, cutting, and delivering these aravot to the Mikdash. Agents of the court are very on top of their game. They're a very specific group of people, and those people are very on top of their game. They won't come to carry on Shabbat. But when something is a mitzvah that's given to the whole community, all the people of the community, all different ages, from the age of every man from 13 and above, all levels of education, and holding in all different types of places, there's a concern that one of those people are going to go ahead and what? Carry. So therefore, we got to be more concerned when it comes to the lulav, which the lulav is the mitzvah of taking the lulav by the mikdash applies to all men over 13. But the mitzvah of Hoshana, the people that were involved in the mitzvah of Hoshana were the agents of the court, the Kohanim. They're on top of their game, and you don't have to worry that they're going to come to carry.
So everyone didn't do it, or they just brought the aravot for everybody?
Right, everyone did not do it. The ones that did it were the Kohanim. The Kohanim were the ones that went around the Mizbeach, and the ones that actually got the stuff was the agents of the court, were the ones who actually were bring it. They would bring it.
It didn't apply to the multitudes.
It did not apply to them all, exactly. So the Gemara says, Ihachi, now the Gemara is going to say an amazing idea, everybody. Ihachi, if that's the case, Kol Yoma Namelidachi. Every day, we should allow you to take the rava, whether Shabbat came out on the 7th day of Sukkot, or Shabbat came on the 1st day of Sukkot, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th. We should let you take that rava independent of what day it comes out, whatever day Shabbat comes out. Because there's no concern of carrying. Because you told me that the people who are running the show here are the very competent people, the Shluchei Bezdin. So why are you limiting the ability and the right to take that rava to specifically game 7, day 7? Why only day 7? Let them take that rava at the Mikdash. Day 1, if day 1 comes down on Shabbat, day 2 comes down on Shabbat, because there's no problem, no concern. That's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara says a fascinating answer. Ati lifkukei belulav. You know what? We're afraid you're not going to respect the mitzvah of lulav. Because if you're going to allow people to take the rava, if it comes out on Shabbat, any time between day 1 and day 7, if any of those days of the holiday comes on Shabbat, you're going to allow people to take the lulav, the Hoshana, people say, the lulav, the only time we take it on Shabbat is only if the first day of the holiday comes out on Shabbat, right? We said lulav, we said the only time you could take lulav by the mikdash, but they take lulav on Shabbat is only if the first day comes out on Shabbat. By the Beit, right, and by the Beit HaMikdash, right? By the Beit HaMikdash, we will not take the lulav day 2 to day 7 if it comes out on Shabbat. Because remember, who does the lulav by the Beit HaMikdash? Every person. And therefore, we're concerned those people are going to come to carry. But we gave an allowance if the first day comes out on Shabbat. Even the rabbi said, we're not going to make the fence over there, because since the Torah was very strict about the mitzvah, the Torah gave the mitzvah the first day, both to the people at the Mikdash and outside the Mikdash, so the rabbis held back their fence. But they said clearly, between day 2 and day 7, as Ralph said, we will not take the lulav by the Mikdash. So if you're going to have the arava being taken all 7 days by the Mikdash, whether it comes out on Shabbat, if Shabbat, whatever day Shabbat comes out, if you would allow you to take the arava, and you don't allow you to take the lulav whenever day it comes out on Shabbat, only one day. So if you're going to give 7 opportunities for the Arava, that whenever Shabbat comes out, any time between day 1 and day 7, how you would take the Arava, but you will not take the Lulav anytime, people will not respect the mitzvah of Lulav. They'll say the mitzvah of Lulav is very light, because the fact that we hold back and we don't take the Lulav anytime between day 2 and day 7, if it comes down to Shabbat, and we take the Arava all 7 days, they'll come.
Well, you don't take the Arava all 7 days. You only take the Arava on Hoshana Rabbah.
But the Gemara's question was, why shouldn't they take the Arava in the Mikdash? In the Beit HaMikdash, there was a mitzvah to take the Arava all 7 days. But the rabbi said, you will not take the Arava if Shabbat comes out between day 1 and day 6. If the Shabbat comes out on day 3 of the holiday, day 4, day 5, you don't take the Arava. The only time you take the Arava on Shabbat is if it's day 7. If day 7 comes out, the holiday comes out on Shabbat, then you take the Arava. And the Gemara says, well, what's the concern? Why shouldn't you take the Arava if day 1 comes out on Shabbat? Day 2 comes out on Shabbat, of the holiday comes out on Shabbat. Take the Arava. It's no concern of carrying. The Gemara says, you're right. On paper, you're right. On paper, you should take the Arava, even if the 3rd day comes down on Shabbat of the holiday, you should take the Arava. So why don't you take the Arava if the 3rd day comes down on the holiday, 3rd day of the holiday comes down on Shabbat? Because then what's going to happen is you're going to be performing the mitzvah of the Arava more than the time you're performing the mitzvah of Lulav. Because Lulav, you told me, the only time you'll take it on Shabbat if day 1 comes down on Shabbat. And therefore, we're afraid that the people will not give the respect to the Lulav. And because we're afraid people will come not give respect to Lulav, it's more important to hold back and tell you, don't take the Arava between day 1 and day 6 if it comes down on Shabbat. Right. That's today. We're going to talk about with today's day and age. We only do it on the 7th day, but at the time of the Mikdash, there was a mitzvah halacha in time for every day. Just like Lulav, there was a mitzvah to take the Lulav every day. There was a mitzvah. It's very interesting. They have 3 mitzvot. You have the mitzvah of Lulav every day by the Mikdash, the Arava every day by the Mikdash, and pouring water on the Mizbeach every day in the Mikdash. They're all connected to the mitzvah of water, Shana, Lulav. So those are all done for 7 days. So the Gemara says, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Ariel. So the Gemara says, the Gemara continues. Okay, so you told me we are on 43b1. No, now we're on 43b2. So the Gemara said on the left side, you're telling me you can only allow the Arava to take the Arava, the Hoshanot, right? Those, like we take 5, they only allowed you to take it again, it took it all 7 days of holiday, but if day 1 of the holiday and between 1 and 6 came out on Shabbat, they say you don't take it. The only time you'll take it on Shabbat if day 7 comes out on Shabbat. Right, so the Gemara is saying day 1 in the Beit HaMikdash, day 1 through 7 are all the same. But now the Gemara is saying they're all the same. The Torah, the halacha l'Moshe Sinai, the obligation of taking that Arava, the Gemara holds at this point, we don't see at any difference. There's no, on a Torah level, between day 1 and day 7 regarding the Arava. Taking the Arava, the willows by itself, in the Beit HaMikdash and encircling the Mizbeach and putting them on the side of the Mizbeach, the mitzvah applies all 7 days, the same. So the Gemara says, so why? The right, halacha l'Moshe Sinai in the Mikdash, the Beit HaMikdash, when the Beit HaMikdash was standing, all 7 days of the same mitzvah. But the rabbi said, you know what? So the Gemara said that Right, the Gemara says Mark's question. If they trust them, since the people involved in it are the agents, so they want every day you should take it. The Gemara says because the reason why you're right, on paper you should take it every day, but we're afraid that people are going to come to look at the lulav lesser. And Rashi says they'll think the lulav is not a chashuv mitzvah. They'll think it's not an important mitzvah. And when people have that, when people have a certain mentality, they think something's not so. We suffer from that. It's only Rabbanan. You ever hear that? It's only Rabbanan. It's only rabbinic, and they don't have the respect for it. They might not keep it. So the concern is if they'll look at lulav in that way, that it's not important, not though it's such an important mitzvah, they won't come to do the mitzvah properly. So therefore, the Gemara says, because we want to protect the lulav, the mentality and how we treat a lulav, the rabbis limited the ability to take the Hoshana. It's like a fence to protect the Torah. Here it's to protect the mitzvah of lulav. I think it's a fascinating application of the rabbis, that the rabbis said, but to protect the lulav, we're going to create a fence. When day 1 to day 6 comes down on Shabbat, we're going to say, don't take the Hoshana, the Arava, if Shabbat comes between day 1 and day 6. Why? Because if you're going to allow more days on paper, if the net is more.
It's only one Shabbat in both cases. There's only one day that it could be. Don't bring you up to the judge because it's on Wednesday. I mean, not on Wednesday, it's on Tuesday, 4th. Okay? So the 4th day, don't bring you up. Other 6 days, you bring it.
Right.
Now go to Arava.
You can't bring it. So do a
worst case scenario.
So let's do a 5-year survey. 5-year survey. So for a 5-year survey, if you're going to say that you take the Arava, they're going to take it for all 5 years straight on Shabbat. And then you're going to say, when it comes to lulav, the only time you were allowed to take it on Shabbat, you got one chance in those 5 years. So in net, you had 4 more times you took the Arava.
Why would we come out on the 7th day, 5 years in a row?
No, not 5 years in a row. If you were allowed to take the Arava every year for all 7 days, because there is no concern about desecration of Shabbat, because the agents of the court are running it. So if you were allowed,
day 7, 5 years in a row.
No, let's say it's day 2. Let's say day 2 is Shabbat, right? So if you say, good morning, Charles. But that was the Gemara's question. Why don't you? The Gemara's question was, there should be no concern about the Arava, and you should be able to bring the Arava. The mother's not doing it, and therefore you should be able to do the Arava. What? But that's the Gemara's question. Why not? That was the Gemara's question. Why not? Why don't you take the Arava? No problem. We left it. Don't worry. We're happy.
The lulav also only has 1 day.
But I'm answering you, Mark. You're right. The lulav has 1 day. We only allow the lulav 1 day. Meaning, if Shabbat,
there's only 1 day.
there's only one
day. That 6 days. The other one be also 6 days.
Okay, so let's clarify. Let's explain this point. By lulav, in 5 years, over 5 years, most of the time, Shabbat will not come out on the first day of the holiday. Shabbat will not be on the first day of the holiday. Is that correct? Percentage-wise. Most probably Shabbat will come out on, most likely on another day. One time, it will come out on Shabbat. It will come out on the first day of the holiday. So in those 5 years, there was 1 day of the holiday. 4 of the 5 years, you only took the lulav 6 times. Okay, we got that? Lulav, you would have taken only 6 times, 4 times, but you would miss lulav 4 times out of the 5 in those 5 years. Right. And the only time you would have taken it all 7 days was if you got lucky that the first day of the holiday was on Shabbat. The Gemara's question is, you should be able to take the Arava all 5 years for 7 days straight. Get it? All 5 years, 7 days straight, take the Arava. Because there's no concern of carrying. You told me the lulav, you cannot have 5 years of 7 days in a row lulav. You told me for 5 years you're only gonna have 6 days of lulav. Because four days of lulav.
No.
For 4 years you'll have 6 days. You're missing, but you're gonna give me 5 years of 7 days by Arava. Why not?
No, you're saying that based on the way that we're holding now, if Shabbat comes on the middle of the week.
No, middle of the week, middle of the holiday. You should take the Arava.
The reason why they're telling you not to is because you're gonna make the lulav less.
That's the Gemara's answer to the question.
Okay, so then the answer doesn't make sense to me.
Why doesn't it make sense?
Because it's not making the arava less than the lulav. They're on.
No, and that makes them equal. Again, we don't want the lulav to be less than the Arava. And the lulav, the way I just explained, if you will have 5 years of 7 days in a row Arava, and 5 years only 6 days, 4 of the years you have 6 days of lulav, so therefore the lulav is less. You performed the lulav less than the, and therefore we don't want it. We don't want to perform.
You surely bring it the 7th day. If it's day 1 through 6, you wouldn't bring it.
Why? That's the first question. You don't do the Arava between day 1 and day 6. But the Gemara's question is, why not?
One day, be the 7th day, 4 years, we have day 1 through 6, and they would be all.
Right. That's only if you make the Gezerah. It's only if you make that restriction. But day 1 and day 6. But the Gemara's question is, why make the restriction between day 1 and day when Arava? You should not make any Gezerah, no restriction. You should be allowed to take the Arava all 7 days of the holiday.
No restriction.
Then,
Except that 5 years, you should have it 7 days in a row.
exactly.
And
Lulav,
out of the 5 years, you wouldn't be able to take. No, one out of the 5 years, you would take 7 days in a row.
of the lulav.
Of the lulav, and therefore, 4 years, you have 6 versus 7.
That's the cut. You got it? You heard what the man said? That's what the Gemara said. So then the Gemara shoots back. Okay, I buy it. The Gemara says, I buy it. But why are you telling me that what makes the 7th day of Arava better than day 1 or day 2 or day 3? Why are you only allowing the Arava on Shabbat if Shabbat comes out on day 7 of the holiday of Shana Rabbah? If Shana Rabbah is on Shabbat, the 7th day comes on Shabbat, then you take the Arava in the Mikdash. But if day 1 comes out on Shabbat, day 2 of the holiday comes on Shabbat, you see, you do not take the Arava. And the only reason why you did that is only to protect the reputation of the lulav. But you can protect the. It's nothing about this, right? It's only about to protect the ages of the corner bringing the Arava. So the Gemara should say, okay, so if that's the case, if day 1, the court messengers are bringing. So if that's the case, so why, we have a rule called Zrizim Magdimin LeMitzvot, right? When you have a mitzvah to do, Simon, right? You do it the first opportunity. You don't leave a mitzvah. So why should we give you the opportunity only if day 7 comes out on Shabbat? Why is day 7 better than day 1? Let you take that Rava the same way you take the lulav day 1. Take that Rava day 1 if day 1 comes on Shabbat. Why is day 7? Why is 7 better than day 1 that comes out on Shabbat? That's the Gemara's question. The Gemara's question is, so the Gemara says, we should push off. Take the Arava on day 1 of the holiday, right, Mr. Haber? Why is 7 yes, the Medrash says 7 is God's lucky number, right? So I don't say God's favorite number. No, I should say lucky. Lucky is the wrong word. The 7 is Hashem's favorite. As you know, 7th day is Shabbat, 7th day, we have 7 counting the Shemitah. 7, the number 7 is it's a completion, it's a cycle. But why why shouldn't we take it on day 1? So the Gemara says, Lo mucha milta. If you take it on day 1, people are not going to realize that it's a mitzvah min Torah. You know what people will say if you take the Arava on day 1 and it comes on a Shabbat? They'll say it's riding on the coattails of the Lulav. Since you take the Lulav on day 1, even if it comes down on Shabbat, so then you would say, and you know why you're taking the Arava on day 1 on Shabbat? Because you take the Lulav. And therefore, we can't do it on day 1 because we're not going to accomplish our showing that it's a mitzvah min Torah. Amri, because people say, Lulav de Kadachi. They'll say it's because of the Lulav. So the Gemara says, V'lidachi bechad mahanach. Okay, you can't do it on Rava on day 1 of the holiday. But day 2 to day 7, they should be all equal. So why are we picking day 7 as the time that we go ahead and we do the what? The mitzvah of Arava. Why not day 2 of the holiday or day 3 of the holiday? Why is 7 better than day 2? And again, the idea, like I'm saying, you have a missed opportunity. Why shouldn't you get that? Do it earlier. So the Gemara says, even the kamafkit lemirishon. Once you already removed it from day 1 of the holiday, we want to put it on a clear time that people remember very well. First day of the holiday or the last day of the holiday. When the Gemara says, even the kamafkit lemirishon ukmei shvi. Put on the 7th. It's a very day that's very easily recognizable. The first day of the holiday came out on Shabbat. You would have the lulav by the mikdash, but you will not take that. You will not take that rava. And I'll just read you the commentary over here. Is because a day that's separated from its friend. The first day, which is the beginning of the holiday, or the last day of the holiday, it's very, it's a very unique. This is either the first, which is separated from the beginning of the holiday, but day 2 to day 7, they're all running together. But day 7, it's the end of the holiday. So therefore, that's what they picked. Okay, we'll continue in the Gemara tomorrow, further analysis of this Gemara. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. 100%. You gotta get the mikdash back when I gave that rava back in the mikdash. They focus a lot on the korbanot, and it's called kachim. They're learning kachim. Yes, in-depth analysis of all the halachot. I know a lot of the brisky yeshivot, they call the brisky yeshivot the Soloveitchik. They focus on the kachim, the korbanot. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Thank you, Simon. Yes, good catch.